Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with back-to-back episodes of the Steelers Preview. Yes, the three of us were here last night talking about the NFL schedule release. We went over in great depth the Pittsburgh Steelers 2019 slate of games. If you want to listen to that, check out that show. That was on YouTube as well as on all of our audio platforms. But here we are again, Thursday night, regular time, regular place. Live on YouTube, that's Bryan Davis, Dave Schofield. Bryan, how are you this evening?
I see YouTube people more than I see my own kids, and you aren't as pretty as them. I'm just going to say that right now.
Well, I know your kids. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Dave, what about you? How are you doing?
I am bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. That's a shout-out to Lance Williams, the cliche killer. That was the right way to say it.
The cliche killer. Yes, he is. He does two things very well. He kills cliches and he butchers names. He called Martavis Bryant for his entire tenure in Pittsburgh, even though I've corrected him every single time. Anyways, look, let's get right off to the bat. Those that have been following the show should know, I say should, use that term loosely, that we are giving away 2 tickets to the upcoming Steelers draft party Saturday, the 27th. That is the final day of the NFL draft. There's rounds 4 through 7 will actually be announced at the party. We are giving them away for free. And if you're just now hearing this, here's what you have to do. You have to backtrack all the way back to last night's show, the Steelers preview with the schedule. You have to go back to the standard is the standard on Sunday, and then you have to go back to last week's Steelers preview to get all of the previous questions, because you have to do 2 things right. Number 1, you have to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Number 2, you have to get all of the questions correct, and you're going to email Mr. Schofield here the answers. So you can send them all in one email. Someone actually sent me an email asking me that, and I said, that's fine. So here's the email address before we get you the 4th and final question. His email is Steeler, STLR, again, STLR, superfandad @gmail.com. Again, that's STLR, superfandad @gmail.com. That's all one word. There's no underscores. There's nothing else. No periods. Steeler, superfandad. This is the 4th and final question. We will pick the winner for the contest this Saturday at midnight. He will pick the winner. I'm not picking the winner. Dave is picking the winner. And Dave is also going to provide us the question. So, Dave, the 4th and final question, I know it's going to be a doozy. Why don't you go ahead, take over, and let the listeners know what the final trivia question is.
All right, listeners, it's all been leading to this. I do want to remind you that when you send in the email, you will get a reply. If you do not get the reply, there was something wrong with the email. It didn't send properly. If you have to, go on the website, look me up. My email should be there under my profile to make sure you got it right. It'll be in the description of all of these podcasts. So if you don't get a reply, then it hasn't come through. So here's the final question. It kind of piggybacks a little bit with the question we had last night. Since 2000, when Kevin Colbert took over as the GM of the Steelers, they have made 152 draft picks. Out of all of those picks, how many of those players have not or did not play a single regular season game for the Steelers? How many players have 0 games for the Steelers drafted in the Kevin Colbert era? That includes players that only played on the practice squad. That includes players that were even drafted recently and just haven't actually registered as a game. This includes players that were cut and were never with the team, players that could have been traded or signed somewhere else and played a bunch, but never played for the Steelers. Whoever gets the exact number right will be entered into the drawing. If no one gets it exactly right, we will go with the closest answer.
Price is Right rules. Closest without going over.
Nah, just who's closest.
All right, so there you have it, folks. That's your 4th and final question. That's a tough one.
That's a doozy.
That is a doozy. I think if you go back, I mean, those are some questions were easier than others. I thought the first one was rather simple. Going back to the West Virginia University, go back and listen to that if you have to. But still, check that out. We're giving away 2 tickets for free, folks. If you can make it, awesome. Hope you get all the questions right. And I just hope that whoever does end up going, take some photos, send them to myself or Dave. I'd love to put them out on social media. It's like, hey, here are the people that we sent to the Steelers draft party. It'd be pretty cool as you represent BehindTheSteelCurtain.com and all of our podcasts, which we take a lot of pride in. So if you didn't know, because I did say you have to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're listening on audio form, go to YouTube, search BTSC Steelers Radio, and you can find us there. So, all right, let's get to some news. There's really not a lot of news. The Steelers started their phase 1 of their offseason workout program. What this means is that the players, conditioning coaches, that's really it. There's no other coaches that are permitted to be there during phase 1. They are allowed to have footballs and throw the ball around, but there's no pads, no hitting, nothing like that. But there were some media availability, especially for the Steelers official website, and the Steelers talked to one Benjamin Roethlisberger, and he said all the right things. But Brian Davis, I know that you've read the comments and you probably read the article that I wrote for the website. Ben said all the right stuff. But do you think he was also saying a little bit more than just what's on the surface?
Oh yeah, to me that was a big screw you to a couple people, and the reason I think that is just he's going back to 10 years ago with the Band of Brothers, which I always liked when he did that, but it means a whole lot more to him right now. Just saying, hey, look, we are not selfish players. We are here. We are not the selfish player that you think that we all are. You can group us in with 2 malcontents. Don't do it, because we are here for each other. We want to be here. We're celebrating each other, and we're going to do it without them, and we're going to do it right, and we're going to go a lot farther than you think. We don't need them. We're here for you, and we're here for us.
Yeah.
And nothing more.
No, that's about, I mean, I thought that it were some strong words, and it wasn't. It was kind of like what Mike Tomlin says. He says everything while saying nothing. And I felt that was true. Dave, do you agree with that or you disagree?
No, I agree with that. I like the whole way of he says everything by saying nothing. That's a great way to put it. But every little thing that Ben says right now is going to be scrutinized. Is he taking a shot at, regardless of what he's saying? That's why it was so wise that he didn't speak for so long. It didn't say anything about all of this, because no matter what he said, it was going to be taken the worst possible way. I'm happy with what he did. I'm happy with the whole idea of this is us. Forget anybody else who's on the outside, except for those guys that will be coming along in a week now, which we can't wait for. They'll be brought in and welcomed, which is really exciting. But this is great. Just keep everything in house. Unite as a team. That's when you're going to get your best football. People do not understand how much team means to this game. It's so important. You could have all the talent in the world. People keep talking about the Steelers squandering their talent. It doesn't matter if you have talent if you don't have team. This is a team game. You got to have the team. Let's build that team right now.
And I'm not sure, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't feel like Roethlisberger's been at phase 1 of off-season workouts very much in the past few seasons. I don't remember him being there. They had a very large veteran contingent at this workout. We're talking Pouncey was there a lot. I think almost the whole offensive line, Villanueva. They were there, and they were making a strong statement by being there, I think. And here's my last question before we move on to both of you. Brian, we'll start with you. If you were giving Ben Roethlisberger advice, do you ever see a time where you say, you know what, let's sit down with someone of your choice? Maybe it's Sal Paolantonio, maybe it's Chris Berman, and you can share your side of the story. Do you ever have him do that, or do you just say, no, stay quiet, there's no use, let's move on?
No, because it's going to be it's been done. Bell did it. Brown did it. He doesn't need to do it because he's a different guy. He doesn't have to have that one-on-one. He just has to lead. And he started leading again. He's always been a leader, but he's been doing stuff without saying it to be a leader. right off the bat, when Donte Moncrief gets signed, what does he do? He calls him up, says we can get together in the offseason, welcomes him aboard. You're going to be needed here. And that is something that's huge. It doesn't have to go through a puff piece that everybody could just rip apart. All he has to do is be the team leader that he is and just get everybody together and say, you know what, we've been pointed at. We've had our leadership questioned. Everyone thinks we're going to go 6-10 and we're going to be dead without those guys. We're banding together and we're showing them. And that's all he has to do, Jeff.
What about you, Dave?
I completely agree. We do not want to deal with one of those interviews because they never go right. They never go well. And no matter what you say, you could just go out and say puppies are cute, and half the people are going to be furious about what you say because it doesn't matter. I seem to remember a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, in an interview, some people were upset with Coach Tomlin when someone brought up the notion of the Patriots in the playoffs. Hey, we're only dealing about this week for week. People are like, oh, well, that's out there. Then the next season, he's in an interview. They mentioned the Patriots, and he's talking about, a course with them coming up later on, which they never got to. And people roasted him for that. You're not happy if he does say it. You're not happy if he doesn't say it. So it doesn't matter. Those sit down things, they never come out. You never come out on top. There's never a winner. There's never a loser because everything's always just going to be over critiqued, and half the people are going to like it and half aren't. So it's really not worth the time.
I agree 100%. So let's go ahead and switch gears. There really wasn't a lot of news this week. Everything was about the schedule. We talked about that at length. Again, you can go back and check out an entire podcast that we did in lieu of the burning question, my normal show, about we predicted. You all predicted 11-5, I believe, and I predicted 12-4. If you want to hear the details on, did you not pick 11-5, no, Dave?
You picked 13-3. You didn't even add them up right on your own article.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, 13-3, I like it. And you know who agrees with me is actually Skip Bayless. So that that's going to come to fruition now.
Oh, yes, because the all-knowing Skip Bayless has said it.
Yes. So if you want to hear that, go ahead and listen to that on your own time. But let's go into the Stat Geek segment this week. I don't know what we're going to get, Bryan. Dave has been in his lab cooking up something, and we're just talking about the NFL draft, so I'm assuming there's still draft questions. So go ahead, Dave.
Wait, real quick. Just like the schedule leaked yesterday, one of Dave's questions leaked, and I'm going to spoil it right here. It's a draft question. How much weed did Martavis Bryant smoke on draft day? And so it's already been leaked. I looked it up, so I'm going to exclude myself. So Jeff, you can guess.
Wait, what? Wow. Who was the guy? Was it Laramie Tunsil? What was his name again?
Yes, Laramie Tunsil.
He had the mask.
Yeah.
Gosh, you must have done somebody so wrong for them to hold on to that photo and then release it the day of the NFL draft.
It was a video. It was a video.
You're right, but still, that wasn't current. That was like from
2 hours before the draft.
Yeah, it was released like 2 hours before the draft. Or Randy Gregory, who you're going to the NFL Combine and they're going to test you and you fail your drug test. Come on, I don't get it. So, anyways. That was a good lead question, by the way. But Dave, I'm sure you have some more drug-induced questions. Why don't you go ahead and fire those away?
I got some questions. I'll be honest with you. I was really laboring on the questions for the contest. So these, we'll see how we do. You're going to get a repeat category again. We've got, let's see, Bryan won last week, so Jeff gets to start this week. Of your three categories are roundabout, hodgepodge, or last week's favorite, can you take me higher?
Oh, geez. Let's go with hodgepodge.
Okay. Would you
I'm over my Creed phase.
Would you like?
I'm going back there.
Would you like A or B?
I'll take the A.
You'll take the A. Hodgepodge is because just in order to find enough questions, these were just two random questions that I couldn't come up with a category for. So I don't know if this one's more difficult or not, but here's the A. Okay. When it comes to Steelers draft, what is the furthest back you can go? In other words, the most distance back you can go of a Steelers draft that has more than one player still on the roster that was drafted in that year? So what year would it be going backwards where you have multiple players still on the team?
I'm sure Bryan knows this, but so let me clarify. So
Okay.
I'm trying to go chronologically in terms of year, in terms of NFL draft. How far back can I go where I can think of multiple players that are still on the Steelers roster?
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm still confused.
In other words, like for example, in the 2018 draft, there are multiple players that the Steelers drafted that are still on the team.
Well,
How far
yeah.
back can you go where there's more than one player
So Bryan,
still on the team?
an example would
example,
be. Oh, hold on, I got an example. If Max
Roethlisberger in 2004
if
is
Max
the
Starks
only
was
one
still on
from
the
that one.
team,
Yeah.
if Max Starks was still on the team, you could say 04 is as far back as I go,
Yes.
but he's not.
So what do we got there, Jeff? Jeff is thinking. Give him some Jeopardy music so we don't have a big pause on the
I'll go
podcast.
2014. But do you still count Shazier as on the team?
Whether or not you count
It
Shazier does
doesn't
not
matter
change the
because
answer.
then that's my answer. I don't know. Bryan, can you go for
2014?
Yeah, that's not.
You are correct.
Really?
You are correct.
Oh my gosh.
2014, because whether or not Shazier was still counted, which I would count him,
Yeah.
there's still two more. Stephon Tuitt
Yep.
and Daniel Shade Tree McCullers.
7th round, right?
Was he 6th or 7th? I'd have to go back.
He was late. He was late.
6.
Yeah, because this answer changed recently because it would have been 2010, but we made a trade to Oakland. Then it would have been 2011, but we also just traded Gilbert. So therefore that bumps it all the way to 2014.
Wow.
Prior to 2014.
Total luck.
That was a great guess, Jeff. You deductive reason. So here we go, Bryan. You get question B, which probably is the more difficult question.
Yes.
You're welcome. Okay. Last season, Terrell Edmunds appeared in every game. So he's appeared in every game as a Steeler since he's been drafted. Who's the only other player on the roster that has appeared in every game since they were drafted, other than Terrell Edmunds? And here's your hint, Bryan. It's not from last year's draft.
You know what? I mean, I'm just going to throw out a guess, and this is probably wrong. He's probably been hurt in one of those games, but David DeCastro.
He was hurt as a rookie.
David DeCastro missed a bunch his rookie year, and he missed 2 games last year because BJ Finney started for him.
I've been drinking. I don't.
So, hey Jeff, do you have a steal? Jeff for a steal.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Since they've
appeared in every game. This was a good question, wasn't it?
This was a good question. I'm trying to run through all the players on the roster and who hasn't been hurt. It wasn't from last year's draft. You said
it was not, because Edmunds was the only one from last year's draft that appeared in every game.
Right. Even TJ Watt missed the game last year.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been my guess, was TJ Watt. I know that's wrong. So what's the answer?
The answer would be one Artie Burns.
You're counting special teams.
He's played in every game. He has played in every game.
Really?
He is credited for being in the game. He has had at least one snap on any form in the game. He's the only other player. Because that's what they go by with. That's what they go by. That's not a trick question. When they go by NFL stats, okay, when they go by NFL stats, whether or not you're credited with a game played, that's a big deal whenever it comes to contract issues and retirement and all kinds of things like that, whether or not you're credited with being played in a game or not. Artie Burns is the only other player on the Steelers that has played in every game since he was drafted.
How many scoops of Gatorade powder do they put in every single
that wasn't
bucket?
that bad, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh, come on. He hasn't been hurt. Give me your category there, Bryan. You want roundabout, or can you take me higher?
Well, I don't want Merrill Hodgepodge anymore. That one sucked. Let's go. I went higher.
Can you take me higher? Do you want A or B?
Give me A. If B's
Okay.
the tougher one, I want A.
Well, this is just like last week. I'm going to give you 3 players at the same position. Tell me which one was drafted higher.
Oh,
Okay.
easy.
In 2000, this is offensive linemen, specifically offensive tackles. 2004, Max Starks. 2011, Marcus Gilbert, or 2012, Mike Adams.
Oh,
Okay, they were
all second round.
Yeah, I mean, those are second. Well, Starks wasn't a second rounder. Coakley was the second rounder. So we're going to eliminate Starks right away.
Well, that means if you get it wrong, you basically give it to Jeff.
we've got what's that?
Instead, if you get it wrong, you've basically given it to Jeff. Then,
yeah. So no, I'm going to get this. So who's the other guy? Mike Adams and who else?
It was Mike Adams in 2012 or Marcus Gilbert in 2011.
Okay, well, it's without a doubt because of where they drafted. It's Mike Adams.
That would be correct. Very good. Mike Adams was taken with the 56th pick, which was the second round. Gilbert was the 63rd, so it was significantly different. Yep,
they were Super Bowl runners up.
Exactly. That's what you needed to know in order to do it, and that Starks was in the third round, because a lot of times people forget that Starks was the third round. So here we go, Jeff. Question B: you are going with wide receivers. Which one was drafted higher? 2002, Antoine Randall L. 2008, Limas Swede, or 2013, Marcus Wheaton?
Limas Swede.
You just pulled that out of nowhere, did you? That is correct.
That was a second round pick, I remember.
So was Randall L.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that. Then that was a lucky guess. I knew that Swede was the second rounder.
Yep, and Wheaton was the third rounder.
Brian, you're on mute, man. You're on mute, Brian. God bless America.
What? I was exercising. I wasn't saying anything. I was exercising my gums.
Okay, so here's roundabout. Jeff, A or B?
A.
Okay, since 2000, both of these are going to be for since 2000. What is the only round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that the Steelers did not draft a wide receiver?
Wait, what? Say so. Since
out of the seven rounds since Kevin Colbert, what's the only round they did not draft a wide receiver?
Since 2000. 7th.
I can see Brian already process of elimination.
I gave my answer, the 7th.
You say 7th. Brian for the steal. You're muted.
Oh, jeez. This is the amateur hour.
Give me a break. It's 9:49 at night, and I'm going with the 4th round.
You're going with the 4th round? It would be the 5th round. It would be the 5th round because I had it down here, exactly who it was in the 4th round. I'm trying to remember, but there was a 4th round pick that was.
Yeah, I can tell you who it was. Big guy Gibson, Fred Gibson, from 2005.
Or try Martavis Bryant.
Okay, yeah, Martavis, but Fred Gibson was also a 4th round.
Fred Gibson, he was from Georgia, tall guy.
Yep. He was a 4th rounder as well.
All right, so Brian,
you put our heads together, Brian. It's just like we get it. Like put our heads together.
Yeah. Well, hey, Brian, here you go. Very similar question. What's the only round since 2000 where the Steelers did not draft a running back?
Since 2000.
So you start thinking of.
Well, I know there was a 7th rounder because it's Baron Batch. Of course, there was a 1st rounder. Of course, there was a 3rd rounder. James Conner. 2nd rounder. Gosh, I mean, I'm sure there was a 2nd rounder in there. Wow, Jalen Samuels counts, and he was a 5th rounder. I'm going to go 6.
Jeff for the steal.
I think it's second. I think he said, I'm sure there's a second in there. I don't think there was. I'm going to say
Come
second.
on, Le'Veon Bell was in the second. It was the
Um,
fourth round.
Well, we don't
It
say
was
that
the
guy's. We don't say
fourth
that guy's
round.
name anymore.
Yeah. And in the sixth round, that was the tough one. It was Jonathan Dwyer was in the sixth round.
That
So
guy.
that was a tough one. That was a good one.
Bryan from Jonathan Dwyer from
Georgia Tech.
Very good.
So all right.
Very good.
Let's give Jeff a chance here to start off with the bonus question for the 3 points. Here's your two categories. Do you want kicking it old school or kicking it old school?
Yeah, whatever. Just ask me a freaking question.
No, you got to pick which one.
It's the same thing.
No, do you want kicking it old school or kicking it old school?
We don't have game show talent scouts on this, Dave.
The first one, whatever the hell you said.
Okay, here you go. I love this one for you. Okay, here and this is since the merger.
Jeff Reed.
You're close, but no. Get the question. Who was the highest drafted punter in Steelers history?
I'm thinking Daniel Sepulveda, but I'm sure that's wrong. But that's my answer.
That is a great guess. He was the second highest. Brian, do we have the steal?
Yeah, let's go Craig Colquitt.
That would be 2 more points for Brian with the steal. That was Craig Colquitt was actually in the third round.
What year was that?
That was 1978, the year of my birth.
Gosh, well, I was -5. So what do you?
So okay, so
was he out of Tennessee?
Oh, I had that, and I don't remember.
I know his.
This was my question from 3 weeks ago that you guys kept skipping. So here you go, Brian. This is for the win. For the win. This is the kicking it old school. Who was the oldest first round pick at the time they were drafted in the Kevin Colbert era by the Steelers? Of all the Steelers' first round picks, who was the oldest at the time they were drafted?
Good gravy.
It's a good question. Because you know how much the Steelers like underclassmen.
Yeah, I think this has been tipped before in another question.
No, because there's still multiple people it could be.
So this is kicking it. So it has nothing to do with the kicker.
Old school. Yes. How old was the person was the oldest?
You know what? I'm just gonna throw one out there. Kendall Simmons.
Jeff, can we get a steal?
I'm going to guess Bud Dupree because I know he was a senior.
Okay, that I understand why you guys went with who you went with. Those were both seniors, but there was one senior who actually had a medical red shirt.
Probably
1 year.
Jarvis
and
Jones.
So therefore they were already 24 years old when they were drafted, and that would be one big snack, Casey Hampton.
Oh.
He was the oldest first rounder they've taken in a long time.
He was 24.
He was 24 when he was drafted. So that's kind of important to go there. So guess what? This is the last time we'll do this. I know next week we'll be doing draft stuff, and this is the last time of the draft questions. We might change up the format in the future, but you guys are both geeks of the week.
Yeah,
we have a tie.
Next week we're not doing Stat Geek. Dave.
No, we're not.
Take a break because next week I'll say it now. I'll say it now that next week we're going to be talking about who the Steelers picked, and that's going to drive home everything. So it'll be a different show. It'll be a lot more like last night's show with the Steelers schedule release, where we're just talking about the news that happened and what we think about it and stuff like that. So let's get right into our NFL draft talk, and that was the headline, I guess you would say, of the article or the show on YouTube is predicting the Steelers' first round draft pick. And there's a lot that goes into this. Now, Dave Schofield, being the genius that he is, thought that it would be cool for us to develop a 5-player big board, and we can talk about our 5-player big boards, see who would be worth trading up for, as well as who maybe is not probably going to be there that they might not trade up for. We'll see if our big boards are the same, if they're different, or maybe if they're incomplete. I don't know. So, Brian, you can go ahead and go first with your. Well, Dave, you're the boy genius with this idea. How do you want to do this? You want to just do like everyone say their first? Do you want us to do all 5? What are your thoughts?
Let's just everyone give it out there first that, hey, if this guy was there, this is what the Steelers should do. Not only if he's there, this is someone that's so on the top of your board that you'd even be willing to trade up for. So we can go. Well, first we'll go see, because that's important. Who's everyone's number one? The one person that if you can get him is going to be the top of your board.
All right, Bryan, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think this one's a no-brainer. Devin White, Jr. LSU.
Mm-hmm. Jeff?
Ditto.
And that is also the same for me. He is the one who if they're trading up, the higher they trade, it's going to be for him, in my opinion.
I'd almost sell the farm.
Yes.
But that's just me.
So that's pretty much our consensus number one on the board. And I bet you anything, we probably pretty much agree on number two as well. What do you got, Bryan?
No, we don't. Nope. You guys
Oh,
are.
really?
Oh, boy.
I'm going to shock a lot of people here. Florida State, Brian Burns, outside linebacker.
Really?
Very interesting. He's on my board, but he's not number two.
On my board too.
Yeah, I think that this is fairly new for me, but I'm thinking that this guy is the perfect 3-4 linebacker for them. And he's head and shoulders above the last few OLBs, including TJ. I think this guy could be a ready-made All-Pro. And
gotcha.
I mean, not that you really desire that position with. I mean, I'm sure I'd love to see what
in a minute.
What's that?
We can talk about that position in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see what the comment section is saying right now, but I just I really think that he could be a transcendent player. So I'm going with Burns.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, what do you have for number two?
I stepped with the other Devin and said Devin Bush. I did get a chance to study him a little bit more. I just think that the Steelers' need is there, and I would still be willing to trade up for him, not as high as White. I would trade into the top 10, whereas I would trade into the top 5 for White. But Bush, he's just so athletic, and he's a 3-down guy, and I think that he would fit the scheme very well. So that's who I have on my second on my big board.
As do I. And that's also because this is my cutoff point of the board of where I'm really willing to actually trade up, unless there's a massive run on all the players on my board. Because of course we have people that aren't on our board. Like for example, I knocked off people like Bosa. He's not going to be there at 20.
Well, right? Yeah, no, we get that. Yeah,
I'm not putting down quarterbacks and stuff like that. That's why it's our big board. So two of us have White and Bryan went with Burns. So now is probably where we'll really start to differ.
Yeah.
So for the third, what do you got there, Bryan?
This is where I go Bush.
Okay.
I love me Bush, and I really think that this guy is. I mean, you could go deep with this guy.
I'm sorry, I'm really immature. Okay, I'm gonna. All right. That's okay. Professionalism. Let's try that. I'm gonna go a little bit different, and I'm gonna bring in the cornerback position, and I'm gonna say Byron Murphy, cornerback from Washington. A lot of people will think Greedy Williams. A lot of people are gonna say maybe Baker from Georgia. I like Byron Murphy. I think that he's a guy that is able to step in and play right away. He can play multiple positions, multiple styles. He has good ball skills, can tackle. I think he's probably the most well-rounded cornerback. He might not be the most physically gifted, but we're going to talk about this a little bit later with our either or, but I like him. So I have him third on my board, believe it or not. Dave, what about you?
Here's where I go off from what people might think, and I'm kind of going along the same lines with Bryan. I'm going to tell you right now, this is my super bold prediction. Steeler fans, order your jerseys. This is who I think the Steelers take if they stay where they are. I think he could fall to them, although some people think he might not. I'm going with one Clelin Ferrell, outside linebacker from Clemson.
Wow.
If you go back and look, they sent everybody to Clemson's pro day. Okay. It was Tomlin. It was Colbert. It was Butler. It was Ovsowski. There was, who else did they have there? Some other defensive guys. But people think, oh, we're going to go corner if we don't get one of the inside linebackers. I don't think so. I think you need someone who can get lots of playing time in year one. Doesn't have to start, but can get lots of playing time. I think outside linebacker is a bigger position for them to draft high than what people realize, because even though he doesn't have to start week one, you're going to get a great rotation going on with Dupree and Watt. Dupree's going into the 5th-year option. If you get the next guy, then you know that you can just kind of cut ties with Dupree after the season, and then you're set. I think this is a great position for the Steelers to take high, because that way they don't have to worry about someone being buried on the depth chart, but yet they don't have to have them necessarily start right away. And I think this guy's a great fit for them at 6'4", 264.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they do take an edge, I mean, good Lord, how many first round picks are they going to spend on the position before they get someone that sticks? But anyways, let's go. What are we on 4 right now, Dave?
Yes, we would be going for our 4th guy on the board. So, Bryan, you want to kick us off here again?
Yeah, I'm going to get a little crazy here. Not too crazy, but it's T.J. Hawkinson. He already looks good in black and gold. He's worn it. This guy, to me, this guy is so Gronk-like. His stock is rising like crazy. I don't know if you necessarily trade up to get him, but if he's there at 20 and the other guys aren't, this is the guy you want, because you're talking about getting a wide receiver, but you're going to get a lot of production out of a guy like this. You pair him with McDonald. This guy easily could get you 6 to 8 touchdowns the first year.
Okay. I'm not going to complain. Well, we'll find out. I'm going to go with what Bryan said with Burns as my number 4. I think he is extremely talented, extremely versatile, extremely athletic. That kind of describes where the Steelers want to go on defense. So that's who I have, the Florida State linebacker, Burns. Dave, what about your number 4?
I actually have Burns there as well, because once again, I know some people in the live chat are disagreeing, but you never know. The Steelers have been very hush-hush about outside linebacker. That's why I think that's where they could go if the other stuff doesn't fall into place for them. So this is the next one I have, even though most people have him higher on their board than Farrell. I just think that the Steelers like Farrell better, but they would also take Burns if he was there as well.
Okay, last one, Bryan.
Let's get greedy. Greedy Williams.
Greedy Williams. I'm going to go with who Bryan just talked about, tight end, Iowa, TJ. I think he'd be a great addition to the team. Tight end's a position of need. What else is there to say? What about you, Dave?
I have the same pick it's Hawkinson from Iowa. I don't think he's going to last that long. I think he will go before the Steelers pick, but I have him down from the other guys because I don't think you need to trade up to get him. Because notice I didn't have any corners on mine. I had all the other stuff. I would go corner after that. But if you look at that with all the names that we've mentioned, at least one of them should be around there when the Steelers choose at 20 if they choose to take the pick there and not trade back.
Call me crazy, but does anyone else feel that when the event actually happens, they're not going to draft anyone that we just said?
I saw a mock draft, and I don't know this guy. I know he's a junior, but it was like a cornerback out of Kentucky. And I'm like, who is this? I've never heard of the guy. And this was a mock draft from a couple days ago. A corner from Kentucky that they had going number 1. And I looked, the date was not April Fool's. It was in April 1st. So I mean, we did the same thing last year with Terrell Edmonds. He picked up some steam maybe about Wednesday of draft week last year, but the only Edmonds that was on their mind was Tremaine. An inside linebacker, and they knew they weren't going to get him. But that was just. I hope not. There are so many options for them at number 20. I think they are going to get a good player at number 20, and and really not be disappointed. I will throw this out here though. I would not be surprised if the guys that they want aren't there, that if they don't trade down. I could see trading down as a possibility for this team.
Well, let's talk actual scenarios. Let's talk about how, if you were to put the first round into your mind, you're thinking about how things go, players that are going to be gone, players that are available. Where do you see the Steelers going, and who might be a prospect that you say, you know what, I can really see them taking this guy? Dave, let's start with you.
You mean at 20 or just to move around?
Let's assume that they're staying at 20 for this scenario.
I like that. I mean, think the Steelers haven't picked as high as 20. How many years has it been since they picked that high? I should have looked that up beforehand.
The last pick,
Bud Dupree was
yeah.
And then Shazier was 15.
Wasn't Dupree like 17?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
He was before 20.
And no one expected him to be there. He was not on the Steelers' radar of who they thought that he was going to be drafting that year. I thought they were going to have someone else. And I remember watching on TV and turning to my wife, who, of course, didn't know anything of what I was talking about, but, was listening because that was the polite thing to do, and saying, I think they got to take Dupree, but I never expect him to be there. Things are going to happen that we just don't expect. There's going to be a run on a position. I'm hoping that the run on the position is one that doesn't affect the Steelers. Wouldn't it be great if there was a run on quarterbacks like there often is, or a run on offensive linemen? That would be great for the Steelers.
So, I was going to mention that, Dave. For me, the key to this draft is, I would say, the Giants at number 6. Because if the Giants get things started with Haskins, you might start seeing at number 10, Denver getting involved, at number 11, Cincinnati getting involved with quarterbacks. And those two teams, Denver and Cincinnati, are teams that could go ahead and take White and Bush. They could take an inside linebacker. I've seen them in that mix. So the lower that the lower that Devin White goes is what's going to push Bush down. So you could conceivably see Bush go about, I'd say, about 8 picks after Devin White, but no more.
That's a good question, Brian. Do you think the Steelers have really put much consideration into White and are focused more on if they could get Bush? And do you think they're going to wait to see about making any move until White is gone? Because that's going to give them a better indication where Bush would go. Like, there's no reason to try to to sit back and say, let's not even worry about it. And we'll wait for Devin White to come off the board. And then we know, because we know he's going to come off before Devin Bush. Wouldn't it shock everyone if Devin Bush goes off first? But the fact that there's 2 linebackers, you could almost wait until saying, all right, as long as they're both there, there's no reason for us to start jumping up and making all these calls. But as soon as one's gone, we might want to think about moving up.
Well, here's the thing. If you're 10 and Devin White is there, you're picking up the phone. Think about it this way. And I've known this story. I actually stayed home for this draft. I had a migraine in high school and in 1987, and I didn't go to school, and I stayed home and I watched the draft. I'm like, oh yeah, the draft's on, so I turned it on, and there was no way that they were going to get Rod Woodson. In fact, I think I mentioned this last week. Tony Dungy told Chuck Knoll, told the scouting department, don't even waste your time looking at Woodson. He's not going to be there. Then crazy things happened. The Cardinals at number 7 went Kelly Stauffer. Then Mike Junkin went to the Browns. And then all of a sudden, here's the golden goose just like waiting there. And they had him. So if you get a guy like White that starts tumbling towards about number 10, that's when you pick up the phone and say, hey, this is what we're offering. We have an extra number 3. We could give you a 5. What do you want? At that point, what do you want for us to get White? And I could see that happening. So that's when you start.
To me, I guess the one thing that scares me the most about potential scenarios in this draft is, let's say they don't trade up to get either Devin, and let's say that even some cornerbacks are gone, and that a tight end like TJ Haskins from Iowa is gone. I just find myself thinking, who would they go to? I would trade out of the first round. And that's exactly what I would do because
Yep.
I don't want to see them. I would rather get if someone's able to give them a second round pick and maybe another third to get back in at 20. That would be fun, or even another fourth. Like I'd say, we'll give you our second round pick and we'll give you a fourth because there's so much good talent in the second round this year, I feel, but I just don't want them to just reach. I don't want them to reach on an Artie Burns or reach on a Terrell Edmonds. I just don't see that back end talent there. Dave, you disagree?
I actually do disagree with this one. I think there's no reason to trade down this year more than any because they already have a ton of picks. You're not going to draft 10 guys. They're all going to stick. Do you really need to pick up an extra pick or two? I
That's
mean,
trade fodder,
so
Dave. That's
I
trade
understand,
fodder.
but to then trade around with later. If you trade back, it's going to be to make other moves to come back and get more. I don't need all the picks that we have at the end. If we use those picks to package together to get up and do other things, that would be great. If you need to trade down, I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I have 5 guys here that I would really that I like. And that's also taking about another 5 to 10 that are people that are going to be gone that are off my board because I think they're going to be gone before the Steelers pick, and they're not even at a position that they would need, like quarterback, like they don't need another first round offensive lineman. I just wrote those off. And I didn't even list the corners. So I'm thinking that there's 7 or 8 good players that they could take at 20 that you've got to be thinking there's got to be one of them left, if not 2 or 3.
You know what? I'm with Jeff here, and I'll tell you why. If you could get a top 5 pick in the second round and a top 5 pick in the third round, you get somebody that up that high that wants to move into number 20. And so now you've got an extra second round pick, which you're picking early. And then another pick where you're already picking at number 4 in the third round, but maybe you have another one right there in that mix. You get a 2 and a 3 for your number 1 at 20. Man, I'm jumping on that because you're getting talent.
I completely understand what you guys are saying because you're right. I don't want to repeat specifically the Artie Burns. You could, and I would even say Terrell Edmonds. I think that they took players that they could have traded down and still gotten where they traded down. First of all, you've got to have a team that wants to trade up. I think they'll be there. But the Steelers, I don't think they move. I think they make the pick at 20. I would love to see them move up and take a Devin. I don't think they're going to move. I think they're just going to make their moves at other places in the draft, and they're going to take the best player on their board at 20. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just what I think right now.
All right, prediction time. Dave, the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round of the 2019 NFL Draft will select
Clelin Ferrell.
All right, Bryan, with the first overall pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers take.
I'm not on mute. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Byron Murphy.
That's who I was gonna say. Byron Murphy. It's a guy picked in the SB Nation editor's mock draft. I'll stick with my pick there, and I'm sure I'll be wrong. Watch. You think back to last year, you had players like some of the safeties. Reed was one of them, and he was there, and they didn't take him. So, all right.
I have to ask a quick question. One quick question. With the picks that we just made, are there other people that you know of right now that would make you more happy if the Steelers got them instead?
Say that again?
You don't even have to say who they would be. Like I made my pick, but if I'm like, I don't care if I'm right. I'd much rather them see a Devin and get one of the Devins than be right about my pick.
Well, yeah.
So
no, I want Devin Bush. That's the guy that I'm dreaming about. I'm
just don't think we're going to get him, right?
Yes, Jeff. I saw the smirk. I'm dreaming about Bush. So no, this is the guy I want. I think he would be perfect. I think he could possibly slip, but I just don't envision it I just don't want to go. Just back to Jeff's point, I don't want Noah Fant at 20. I mean, where you could get him, you could trade down to 27 and get him. You know what I mean? I don't want DeAndre Baker. You could get him later in the first. I think those guys are reaches. I don't want to reach at 20. I want someone that is a legitimate number 20 pick.
Okay.
I agree. And I think out of all the guys that we listed in our top 5, if any of them are available at 20, I think those are legitimate 20 picks.
All right. And so next week, when the Steelers preview is on again, we will actually be talking about the Steelers' first-round pick, or maybe the pick that never happened. Maybe they trade. It'll be exciting nonetheless. I love the first round of the NFL draft. I love the entire NFL draft, but especially day 1 and day 2. Those are the players that you're expecting to have an immediate impact in some way, shape, or form. And so it's always fun to see how that unfolds. But for those that have been longtime listeners to the show, this is the point of the show where we go into our either or segment, where we ask ourselves, it can be football related, it can be Steelers related, it could be anything, where we're just asking ourselves, you have to pick between one or the other. I'm going to go first because mine is actually football related. I decided that let's keep it with the Steelers. Let's keep it with football. And this is kind of a chicken and egg question. And it's, if you had to choose between one or the other, and that is a dominating pass rush or a blanketing secondary, which would you pick? Because if you're picking one, you're not going to have the best of the other. Okay, so if you're taking, I'll take the secondary, but you don't have a good pass rush. So if you had to pick pass rush or secondary, what are you taking? Dave, we'll go with you first.
I say, give me the pass rush, because this seems more like what the Steelers have been lately anyway. But the reason I say that is if the less time the corner or the quarterback has because someone's rushing them can help cover up for not as good of a blanketing secondary. One's going to build to the other. So you're right. It is called cause and effect. But I'll say if you can get to the quarterback faster than everybody else, then it's going to cover up for having a weaker secondary.
What about you, Brian?
You know what? I'm going to echo Dave. I figure that you can mask a secondary with a dominating pass rush. And I mean, I love the days of Quiver and Quake. I love the days of Harrison on one side and, guys like a guy like Joey Porter on the other side. I mean, when I talk about Quiver and Quake, Green and Kirkland, I'm not Kirkland, Green and Lloyd, just guys like that.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is in today's National Football League, you can't even touch a receiver as a defensive back. It's not like back when Mel Blount was mauling people and was able to get away with it. And so, yeah, I think we all would probably say pass rush is where you need to go. So that was my either or for this week. Went first because it was football related. What about you, Dave? What's your either or for this week?
Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of liberty. I try to come up with the good choices, and I realize I'm going to leave this one open-ended. I'm going to let you choose for yourself. Didn't really want to go into this that much. Didn't even really want to mention it, but we started a little bit late tonight because today is my birthday. And if we were not doing this podcast, if the three of us decided to go out and celebrate, and we're going to head out to a karaoke establishment. Here's my question. What's your solo song and what's your group song?
This is
easy. Go ahead, Brian. You're ready to go.
So at both my weddings, I had karaoke at my wedding, and nothing stretches out a wedding and makes it even more fun than karaoke.
That's a great idea, by the way. That's a great idea. I wish I would have thought of that.
It was awesome. So I had my own suit jacket. I had my own tuxedo jacket for my the wedding that stuck, the one here in Maryland. So I also ended up in a cast because of my karaoke performance. I tore some muscles in my foot because I was, ironically, the song I was doing and the song I always do first is from 1982, "Hurts So Good," John Cougar.
All right. So what's your group song? What all three of us got to go up and do?
I know mine. I definitely know mine.
You know what? Go ahead, Jeff, with the group song.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Let me go. I'll go with my solo song first. Now, a lot of people that know me now, I'm a huge Parrot head. Like I love Jimmy Buffett, but you want a song that's going to get the crowd engaged. And so my solo song would actually be, and Bryan, you would be able to tell me who the original artist is. I like Jack Johnson's version better, and that is the Pina Colada song. If you like Pina Colada, because everyone loves that song. Everyone sings that song in their head when they hear it. And so you would sing that song. Who sang it?
Rupert Holmes.
There you go. Rupert Holmes.
And it was the very last #1 song of the 1970s.
There you go.
And ironically, it also hit #1 in 1980 for the first time because it got knocked out and it came back in the next week. So that song hit #1 in both decades.
It's between the Pina Colada song or and then my group song I'm torn between two. Friends in Low Places.
Oh,
which is a classic, or Journey, Don't Stop Believing.
You know what? I mean, I would agree with all of those. I've got one that I've figured out, but I love them. I love all your picks. I want to go to a karaoke bar, and not just karaoke bar. At one of my many bachelor parties that I've had in my life, I was in Vegas, and not just even better than karaoke is a piano bar.
Oh, there
where
you go.
Can sing a lot of piano bars. Oh, that's heaven. I'm going to go with Centerfold. So I'm going back to 1982 for both of these.
Interesting choice.
Because you need help. You need to be able to breathe during the na's at the end. So you need help with that. But that's a really cool song to go ahead and get the whole gang in. But I'm really loving your Friends in Low Places here.
There you go. What about you, Dave?
All right. For the solo song, I'm going to have you guys rolling. I'm going to have you guys Rick rolling. We are never going to give you up. We are never going to let you down. All right. But that's what the solo song would be.
That's a great one.
Not only that, when we've gone on vacation, I've almost had where my daughter, who's 10, wants to come and sing that with me, just to sing the chorus with me.
I got to jump in on you real quick.
Okay.
2 years ago, April of 2017, I was in England, and I went to the Royal Albert Hall, and I saw Rick Astley perform that song. And it was like he was an English god over there, and it was just absolutely amazing to watch this. But it was the day in the middle of the concert, I got a text from this man in the middle of this concert telling me that Dan Rooney passed away.
Yeah.
And so I will never forget the exhilaration of Rick Astley, and then just the fears coming true with DMR.
The bearer of bad news. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that.
You ruined the concert for me, Jeff.
All right, well, what's about your group song?
Okay, my group song. Okay, we got to be ready for that one because we're going to need hands and touching hands.
Okay, there you go.
Touching me, touching
you,
sweet Caroline.
I have to stop you guys. I have to stop you all for a second.
I just woke up the dogs.
Now, one of my daughters, we named her Caroline, and so when she was in utero, I mean, everyone sang that song. She hates that song. I mean, despises that song. And if I just want to get her going and like get her fired up, I'll just say "Sweet Caroline," and then one of my other kids will go "Bum bum bum," and she says, "Stop singing that song. I hate that song." So I'll sing it with you guys, but my daughter will hate it.
So, my daughter has a karaoke machine. It's actually sitting right over here next to me that we can, and with YouTube and everything they have on there now, we can get anything we want now.
Well,
so
when we have the BTSC picnic this summer, we'll definitely be cracking open the karaoke machine.
There we go.
All right, Bryan, finish it out.
Okay, not that this would ever happen, but say one of you guys or anybody at BTSC wrote an article that really riled up the comment section and pissed everybody off. And
whatever happened.
I mean, that's never going to happen. But say it does, and you got to choose somebody from the 2019 Steelers to walk you to the car from the game. Who would it be? Would it be Big Al, Alejandro Villanueva, or would you go with Stephon Tuitt?
So they're security. They're your protection.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, those guys. I mean, I might be missing somebody, but to me, those guys are like the epitome of toughness.
I'll go ahead and go first, and to me it's Villanueva, because not only does he have the size advantage onto it, but he also has the Army Ranger background, and so I'm sure there are some superior fighting skills involved there. He could probably handle himself just fine, especially if it's just because some commenter is trying to kill me. So that's what I'd go with. What about you, Dave?
I would also go with Big Al, because I don't know that Tuitt's bigger than me. So but I know Al was definitely taller than me. So I don't think anyone would be messing with either one of us.
You know, I met Tuitt. I got my picture taken next to Tuitt, and he was sitting down, and he still was huge to me. He still looked. I was leaning in, and he was still taller than me sitting down. And he's deceivingly very big, but his arms are like tree trunks. And I was just looking at him going, that's just incredible. This man is just like a statue. And I don't think anybody would mess with either one of them. So you're safe with either pick, but I'm going to go with number 91.
Good questions tonight, guys. I got to be honest, that was one of our best either wars we've had in a while. So we had a little bit of everything, a little bit of music, a little bit of football, a couple of football questions there. So there you go. Very good. So if you're listening to this live, or maybe you're just tuning into our YouTube show, if you missed the question for the giveaway, you got to go all the way back to the beginning. We did it right off the start, so it's not going to be tough to find. You have the email address. It'll be in the description. That email address will also be in the article on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, BTSC Steelers Radio, as well as all our audio platforms, wherever you find your podcast. And lastly, make sure you're checking out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com as we get ready for the NFL draft. Things are really going to kick up, and it's going to be exciting, and that's the place to be. So, guys, 2 nights in a row, I appreciate your dedication.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Happy birthday, David.
Thanks, guys.
He is 21 years old today, so congratulations. You don't look a day over 21.
We weren't going to forget it, but he wouldn't let us.
That's true. He kept on reminding us and via text message. So, anyways, guys, thank you for your time. We'll see you next week when we unveil the Steelers' first-round pick. That's exciting. We'll see you next week on Steelers Preview.